Of all the dreams we cherish, perhaps one of the most universal is the fantasy of stumbling upon a hidden treasure. It's the thrill that fuels our love for stories about pirates and forgotten maps, the reason we can't help but pause at a dusty flea market stall, wondering what if. For most of us, it remains a delightful daydream. But for one man who brought a simple wooden cane to the Antiques Roadshow, that dream exploded into breathtaking reality. The setting was as grand as the stories it held, the Omni Mount Washington Resort in New Hampshire. The air inside hummed with a unique energy, a palpable mix of hope, curiosity, and the quiet rustle of history being carried in tote bags and carefully wrapped parcels. Every person in line was a guardian of a small mystery, hoping an expert could provide the final chapter. Among them stood a gentleman, holding a walking cane that he felt a simple, unexplainable connection to. He wasn't a collector, not by a long shot. He was just a guy who, while scrolling online a few years prior, had his heart captured by a piece of wood. When his turn finally came, he presented the cane to Alan Katz, an expert whose calm demeanor and knowing eyes have seen countless artifacts over the years. The guest began his story, a humble and relatable tale of a late-night online find. "I bought it online a few years ago," he explained, a slight shrug in his voice. He clarified that he's not a cane collector, but this one was different. It wasn't about function or prestige. It was about the art. "It appealed to me after seeing all of these fantastic creatures on it," he shared. The pull was undeniable, an almost magnetic attraction to the craftsmanship. "I had to have it," he confessed, the memory of that decisive click still fresh. Katz listened intently, a gentle smile playing on his lips. Then he did what he always does. He reached out and simply picked it up. This, he explained to the guest and the audience, is the crucial first step. "That's the first thing I like to do when evaluating a cane," Katz noted. "I do that because of the fact I like to feel the weight of it. That tells me a lot about the cane." For a moment, he just held it, letting his hands read the story the wood had to tell. The verdict came quickly. The cane was very, very light. To an amateur, this might suggest something cheap or insignificant. To Katz, it was the first major clue. That feather-like quality pointed directly to its origins, suggesting it was carved from either white pine or basswood. These, he explained, are woods indigenous to North America, and crucially a dream for a carver because they are so easy to work. With the material identified, Katz's attention turned to the soul of the piece, the carvings that had so enchanted its owner. His fingers traced the intricate details, his eyes lighting up with professional admiration. The camera zoomed in, revealing a whimsical menagerie spiraling up the shaft. It was a riot of life, a frozen narrative of the natural world, all coaxed from a single piece of wood by a patient, masterful hand. Katz described it as a marvelous piece of art, his voice filled with a genuine reverence that elevated the object from a simple walking stick to a gallery-worthy sculpture. This was no Sunday hobbyist's project. The quality, the detail, the sheer creative energy radiating from the piece told Katz that this was the work of a true artist. Someone that made this cane clearly wasn't an amateur, he stated with conviction. He theorized that this beautiful object was likely part of a larger body of work. Because a talent this profound didn't stop with just one. You could almost picture the anonymous artist, decades and decades ago, sitting in a workshop, chips of pine at their feet, breathing life into wood, cane after cane. Katz placed the artist's work in a specific time frame, estimating its creation to be around 1890 or the early 1900s, a vibrant period for American folk art. The tension began to build. The guest was hanging on every word, his initial fondness for the cane now blossoming into a deeper respect. Katz was carefully laying the groundwork, piece by piece, building a case for the cane's importance before delivering the final verdict. He looked the owner directly in the eye, wanting to make sure he understood the gravity of what he possessed. "This clearly falls into the best category of canes," Katz said, his tone leaving no room for doubt. This was the moment the guest's heart likely began to beat a little faster. The best category? He thought back to the purchase. He remembered the price, a sum that felt reasonable for something so unique but was hardly a king's ransom. "I didn't pay a lot for it," he admitted, almost apologetically. The price he paid? $250. Katz absorbed this information with a slow, knowing nod. the stage was set. The backstory was told. The expert analysis was complete. He paused, letting the silence stretch.